Right then, pull up a chair, grab a pint, or a cup of tea if you're feeling proper. Get ready to explore the bitter brawl over the English crown. It's got everything. An empress with steel in her veins, a king who forgot how succession works, a cousin with sticky fingers, and more betrayals than a soap opera during sweeps week. This, my friends, is the story of the Anarchy. England's 12th century family feud that makes the Wars of the Roses look like a pub tiff over darts. Let's dive into the royal mess that was Matilda versus Stephen. Picture this, it's 1135. Henry I, King of England, is dead. The man had one legitimate son, who promptly drowned in a shipwreck. So now the crown's next in line is his daughter, Matilda. Yep, a woman in medieval England. The nobles reacted like someone had announced goats were running parliament. Henry, to his credit, made all his barons swear oaths, twice, that Matilda would be queen. But oaths in medieval England were about as binding as a modern terms and conditions. Nobody reads them, and everybody clicks agree just to move on. Now Matilda wasn't just any royal, she was Empress Matilda, widow of the Holy Roman Emperor, daughter of a king, and not one to be trifled with. She'd married into power, negotiated with popes, and probably scared more bishops than the plague. But after her dad died, Matilda wasn't in England. She was in Normandy with her second husband, Geoffrey of Anjou, who, side note, was a bit of a French heartthrob with a bad temper and a love of flashy boots. Meanwhile, back in England, Stephen of Blois, Matilda's cousin, saw the crown lying around and thought, well, finders keepers. He zipped over from Boulogne, sweet-talked the nobles, charmed the church, and got himself crowned king before Matilda could even book a ferry across the channel. Cue betrayal alarms. Stephen was popular-ish, but let's be honest, his claim to the throne was flimsier than a thatched roof in a windstorm. By the way, get this. Stephen also swore that same oath to support Matilda. Swore it. Kissed the Bible and everything. Then promptly said, LOL, never mind, and took the crown anyway. This kicks off nearly 2 decades of utter chaos known as the Anarchy. Because nothing says governance like barons turning every market town into their own personal Game of Thrones episode. It was England's version of a pub fight that spilled out into the street, burned down 3 buildings and somehow ended up with a goat being declared mayor. Barons flip-flopped loyalties like pancakes. Towns changed hands more often than a bad penny. And the people? Well, the people just wanted someone, anyone, to rule who wasn't a backstabbing noble with a sword. In 1139, Matilda lands in England like a medieval Beyoncé. She's ready to claim her throne, she's got supporters, and oh, she's got her half-brother Robert of Gloucester, who's an absolute tank in battle. She even captures Stephen. Yep, the king. Heron in prison. Game over, right? Wrong. She marches into London to be crowned queen, and the people boo her out of the city. Literally, she was a bit too regal, too imperious, and forgot that you need public support and noble backing. So what does she do? She sulks in Oxford, which, to be fair, is peak British behaviour. Stephen's wife, also named Matilda because this story wasn't confusing enough already, raises an army to free him. She succeeds. Stephen's back, the war goes on, and every castle within shouting distance starts preparing for another siege. Castles burned, crops stolen, people starved. It was less medieval politics and more high-stakes toddler tantrum with swords. Now here's where our Matilda becomes a legend. In 1142, she's trapped in Oxford Castle, surrounded by Stephen's forces. Middle of winter. Snow everywhere. No way out. So what does she do? She puts on a white cloak, blends into the snow, and escapes across a frozen river in the dead of night, like a damn medieval ninja. Empress Matilda, 1. Logic and self-preservation, 0. Let's take a quick detour. Imagine a world where Matilda had been crowned queen in 1141. England gets its first reigning queen centuries before Elizabeth. No Tudor dynasty, no Bloody Mary panic, possibly less obsession with beheading wives. But alas, history's a cruel mistress, and medieval England wasn't ready for a woman in charge, especially not one who didn't smile much or bother flattering her enemies. Matilda steps back from the front line eventually, but she's not done. Oh no, she's got a son, Henry Fitz-Empress. He's got charisma, a temper, and a legitimate claim to the throne. Everything a 12th century resume needs. By 1153, he's storming through England like he's already king. And Stephen? He's tired, worn down, lost his eldest son, ready to throw in the towel. So, they strike a deal. Stephen gets to stay king until he dies. But after that, it's Henry's turn. A peaceful compromise in a story soaked in blood? Shockingly, yes. Let's have a cheeky pint of ethics, shall we? Matilda had a clear claim. Oaths were made. She was smart, strategic, and stubborn. But her downfall, she didn't play nice. Stephen, by contrast, had the people and the church, but betrayed a royal oath. Bit rich, innit? Was Matilda too proud? Probably. But did she hold her ground in a world built for kings and not queens? Absolutely. She paved the way for future queens, even if she never wore the crown herself. Stephen dies in 1154. Henry II, Matilda's son, becomes king. He marries Eleanor of Aquitaine, expands the empire, and kicks off the Plantagenet dynasty. So in the end, Matilda won, just not for herself. She played the long game, and her blood ruled England for centuries. And that, my friends, is the Anarchy, a 19-year royal bar brawl that taught England a very messy lesson about underestimating a woman with a grudge and a claim. Stay curious, stay sharp, and stay just sober enough to remember it all. This was just a swig of history, and if it wasn't in your textbook, it bloody well should have been. And before you go, do a brother favour, like, share, and subscribe.